Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Secretary Pritzker, on Friday, the White House and the Department of Commerce released draft privacy legislation. The proposal rightly focuses attention on the need to strengthen the privacy rights of Americans, but I think that we are going to have a discussion about how strong those rules are in order to ensure that there are adequate privacy protections on the books. So that's why tomorrow Senator Blumenthal and Senator Whitehouse and I are going to introduce legislation that will allow consumers to access and correct personal information that is held by data brokers. The bill provides consumers with the right to stop data brokers from using, sharing, or selling their personal information for marketing purposes without the permission of the individual. So I'd like you, if you could, to talk about 3 issues. The first is whether or not consumers should have a right to access personal information that is held by data brokers. 2, whether consumers should have a right to correct personal information that may be wrong. And 3, whether or not consumers should have the right to say no to monetizing their personal information for advertising or marketing purposes.
Well, Senator, first of all, I look forward to reading the legislation that you and Senator Blumenthal and others are proposing, and your work on privacy is something that is something I have great admiration for. In terms of consumer access to information, I think it's a good idea. I think your ability to correct is very important. It's applicable in other businesses that I've been in. I think the right to monetize is when one has to figure out exactly what are the rules of the road. What we did in the consumer legislation that we put out about a week ago is really to put out something that is meant to be for discussion. It's a draft with the idea we need to address consumer privacy in this country, and we've not done so adequately. And it's an opportunity for the private sector, for government, for civil society, and other interested parties to come together to comment so that we can get something accomplished.
Well, I'd like to work with you, Senator Blumenthal, Senator Whitehouse. I think many members want to talk about how we can provide more privacy for Americans in this incredible era of intrusiveness with every device that every child, every adult in America now has, and putting on information that they would have no idea would ever be used.
Senator, this is a very important issue, and we'd be happy to work with you and Senator Blumenthal and Senator Whitehouse and others.
And Madam Secretary, over the last 8 months, the United States gasoline prices have decreased by 45%, and this gas price slide is acting like a massive stimulus for middle-class families and small businesses. For 40 years, the United States has had a statutory ban on exporting oil produced in the United States in order to protect consumers and our national security. Last year, the Commerce Department ruled that oil companies could export a type of crude oil known as condensate. Before the Commerce Department issued its private ruling on condensate or completed the industry-wide guidance that it issued in December, which federal agencies would then implement, did the Commerce Department consider the impacts of these decisions on U.S. consumers or prices? Meaning, by the exportation of this oil, was there a calculus put together as to how much that would then put a pressure on raising prices rather than lowering them?
Well, Senator, first of all, what we did last year we don't view as a change in policy. What we did was try to clarify what has been the policy to help explain to exporters of petroleum products how they could comply. And that's what led us to publish guidelines. We took into account, how to make it clearer as to what is a petroleum product versus crude oil.
Well, we still import 5 million barrels of oil a day in the United States. We're the largest importer of any country in the world. We surpass China or anyone else bringing in oil. To be exporting crude oil at this time doesn't make much sense to me. So my next question would be, are you considering further expanding any other additional exports or of condensate or other crude oil that could affect that balance between exports and imports in the United States?
Senator, at this time, we have no plans for change of policy, and we're following the law of the land, which is crude oil is not exportable, petroleum products are, and what we tried to do was simply clarify what the difference was in a day and age where technology has changed dramatically, particularly over the last 5 years.
Yes, and as you know, I disagree with that interpretation. I think condensate falls squarely within the crude oil family. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.